Hey yo, what's up and welcome. I'm the one and only West Coast King and welcome back to Major League 90. I took last week off because I didn't really watch too much soccer in the MLS, so didn't really feel like I should do an episode on it when I didn't watch too many of the games. But this week, I was back watching and I kind of want to focus this week on some of the teams I haven't talked about too much. Some of the teams I haven't shown very much love to, and they seem to be turning things around maybe a little bit. So I want to focus on those less recognized teams. And to start off with, I want to talk about RSL, and thank goodness I didn't do an episode last week because they would have been headlining that one. Wow, did they look absolutely ridiculous, and they were humiliated. They weren't humiliated, they humiliated themselves last week against Minnesota, up in Minnesota. 4-2 against Minnesota. They gave up 4 goals to Minnesota. They didn't just give up 4 goals, they gave Minnesota 4 goals. They were horrific. I mean, they to be fair, they just fired their head coach. They looked like they didn't even know why they made the trip, why they were even out there. They didn't look interested at all in playing. They were completely disoriented and discombobulated. They were just awful, weren't they? They were very, very bad. It was one of the funniest and yet saddest performances I've seen in a very long time. But they were back this week, taking on a Vancouver team at Rio Tinto at home. They just got their new coach in, Mike Petke, who has some experience in the MLS, a former coach of New York Red Bulls, a fiery player when he was playing in the league as well. And if anything, RSL needs that fire. Really all I've said about them all year long is that they're a boring team. And I'm still standing by that till I see something else out of them. And this match against Vancouver was really a tale of two halves. The first half, before the snow hit, RSL looked very much like their former self. Looks very much like an RSL team. Not a lot happening, a little bit boring. Still kind of getting used to this new formation that Petke has them playing. And after halftime, the snow hit. The game kind of deteriorated with the weather conditions. Fair play to them. RSL put 3 in the second half and won the game 3-0. But it's kind of hard to judge a team in those type of circumstances, in those conditions, against a team in Vancouver who, let's be honest, is a bad offensive team anyway. That 4-2 win last week against LA aside, which I also would have talked about last week if I had done an episode. Aside from that, they just aren't very good offensively. So it's hard to judge a team in RSL based on this performance alone. But there were some signs of life in that game. Albert Rusnak had a really, really good game. A goal and 2 assists from him. And the team looked a little bit better. At least they had a spark in the second half. They looked interested and actually like they knew what they were doing in the second half. So I give them credit for that. There might be just a shred of hope for them this season. Are they a playoff team? I just don't see it. I really, really don't. But at least they aren't as boring as they were. I mean, they tried to change things there at Rio Tinto Stadium to make it a little bit more interesting. I mean, if they're going to implement mid-game snowball fights, I'm all for it. I mean, whatever keeps me from falling asleep during their games, hey, go for it, man. I like it. Throw some snowballs. Have a little bit of fun out there. Whatever you want to do. Hey, the RSL got their first win of the season, so good job to them. Now, the next team I want to talk about a little bit is Sporting Kansas City. They got their first really impressive win of the season. I mean, it wasn't against a great team. They were at home and taking on Colorado, but they won the game 3-1. They finally showed the team that they can be. That is the team that I believe that they should be, but they just never show that, do they? To me, Sporting Kansas City is the exact same team they were last year. Supremely talented. Potential to be a very, very top 2 or 3 team in the league, yet wildly inconsistent. Just, if they could find a shred of consistency to put back-to-back performances together, or just some performances over a long stretch of time where they're just, you know, a decent team, they would be a top team in the league. But this season they played 5 matches. Started off the year with a 0-0 draw away at DC United. Okay, fair enough. It's the first game of the season. You know, sometimes it doesn't always come together right away. Follow that up with a 0-0 draw at home against Dallas. And to be fair, they're the only team to take any points off of Dallas this season at all. So that's actually not looking too bad. They stayed at home for the next one against San Jose, and they won that one 2-1. Decent result. They were away at Toronto for the next one where they drew 0-0. That's the third 0-0 draw of the season for them, by the way. Which, again, away at Toronto, that's not too bad. I guess you would accept that. And then they were at home against Colorado this week, and they got the big 3-1 win, dominated from start to finish, and like I said, looked like the team that I believe, and I'm sure a lot of Sporting Kansas City fans believe, they should be week in and week out. Now, their next 2 games, that's going to tell us a lot about them. This is really going to test their character and their resolve. They're away at Portland for their next one. Ooh, if they come away from that with a 0-0 draw, that's actually pretty impressive because nobody holds Portland, especially this season, scoreless at Providence Park. That just does not happen. So if they get a 0-0 draw there, 2 thumbs up. I'll actually, like, that's a huge result for them. And then after that, they're away against Dallas. That's another ridiculously, that's the top 2 teams in the Western Conference that they have to go away to back-to-back matches. That sucks. That's a tough bit of schedule right there. But if they come away with 2 0-0 draws there, I would have to say that's not too bad. But that would give them 5 0-0 draws in 7 games. At least they're picking up points. I mean, I think you'd have to take those two results if they get those 0-0. I don't know. I think they have the talent to win both of those games. And if they played like they did against Colorado, they could win those games. It's just a really big ask, and I think it's going to prove a lot. If they're able to get 1 or 2 wins out of that, I'm ready to say that they're one of the better teams in the Western Conference this year. I think they have it in them. They just don't prove it very often. So as always, let's talk about the Sounders now. 2 games have been played since the last Major League 90. A home game against Atlanta United. 0-0 draw. And to be fair, that was a very rotated Seattle team with international break having just concluded. They didn't have Clint Dempsey start. Just a lot of starters out. That defense was super heavily rotated. I was worried going up against that Atlanta United team. Held them scoreless at CenturyLink Field. You feel a little disappointed not being able to win those home games. They hadn't been held scoreless at CenturyLink in a long time. Just a little bit of a letdown there. Would have liked to have won that game, but with the team that they had on the field, you'll take the 0-0 draw on that one. Under those circumstances, I guess that's acceptable. And then this last week, they were away at San Jose with another draw, a 1-1. That one felt more like a loss, though. They played well enough to win the game, held San Jose in check for most of it, got the late goal with Nicolas Ladero, who, by the way, but right before he scored that goal, I was complaining to my brother. We were watching the game together. I was saying Nico just has not been there this season. I mean, he just has not been very effective. Then scores a really nice goal to put them ahead. Maybe that'll get him going. Hopefully it does. And then they just turn right around in the 90th minute and give up the equalizer. And it just has to be Chris Wondolowski that scores it, doesn't it? It's always Wondolowski against Seattle. I freaking hate Chris Wondolowski, and he always scores against us. It's like, it just grinds it deeper into me that I freaking hate that guy so much. But fair play to him. You know, they got the equalizer. Seattle just didn't defend very well down the stretch. And it's another draw. 1 win, 1 loss, 3 draws in 5 matches so far this season for Seattle. Maybe we chalk this up to the championship hangover. It happens, you know, to teams that win the title sometimes. They come out the next season a little bit sluggish. To be fair, Toronto, who was also in the MLS Cup final, very similar start. 1 win and 4 draws, no losses for them so far through 5 games as well. Both of them just, they play well enough to get these results. They just don't seem to be able to get it done. So I fully believe both of those teams, Toronto and Seattle, will turn their seasons around and start climbing up the table as we get further into the season. But as of yet, just haven't seen it out of either one of those teams. So as always, time for the 3 stars for this past weekend. Star number 1 has to go to Albert Rusnak. That was the designated player performance that they've been looking for out of him for this whole season. They just haven't gotten it. That was a big performance. Like I said, a goal and 2 assists for him in that one. Sparked that RSL team in the second half in the blizzard at Rio Tinto. It's just a really good game. If he can start playing like that, Del Plata gets a little bit more involved. They got attacking talent on that RSL team. You know, maybe there's something there. I still don't fully believe it myself, but there could be something there at RSL. Star number 2 is going to have to go to Hector Villalba for Atlanta. He stepped up in a big way since they lost Josef Martinez. Had 2 goals up at Toronto to get the 2-2 draw. Sparked that team in their performance. Just a really solid, another great game from Hector Villalba. Like I've said, they have so much attacking talent at Atlanta. It's just going to be very difficult to stop them no matter who they put out on the pitch. So another star, just another good performance from Hector Villalba. And as for the 3rd star, there just weren't very many really good performances, I didn't think, in the MLS this past weekend. I could give it to Luis Silva. That was a really, really nice compact snowball he made, and a great throw to ping that defender right in the back with it. I guess I could give it to him. I could give it to Michael Barrios, in all honesty. He had a really good game for Dallas, scored a goal, had a really nice ball put in to set up their first one. So, in all seriousness, I could give it to Michael Barrios, but let me know what you guys think. Did I miss a performance out there that was really good? Who would you give this 3rd star to? To be fair, I just didn't really see anything all that impressive this past week for the MLS to give another star to, so I'm going to leave that one up to you guys. So that is it. That's all I got to talk about for today. As always, leave your thoughts, comments, and feedback down in the comments below, and I will catch you guys when we come back for some more Major League 90. See ya.